I'm recognizing that not everything is going to be good, but we can be good within most things. I think part of life's endeavor or part of our entire journey is about us being able to sort of instantiate some type of positivity within the life that we live and allow ourselves to live our life rather than live in reference to life. I think when we allow ourselves to be the subject of our own experience, we sort of allow ourselves to breed a better sense of intimacy with the world around us. And recently, I've been recognizing how much having an outlook of life that allows you to put good into the life that you live, allows you to experience the good of your life. And I think not only just you, but those around you and pretty much everything around you is going to sort of defer to that judgment. I think when we actually open ourselves up to the love that we can share for ourselves and the world around us, and pretty much anything that we do is going to allow us to do it in a way that actually allows us to find ourselves within it. I think we really can find ourselves in everything so long as we allow ourselves to be found. And I think when we allow ourselves to be so caught in our minds about everything that tends towards our success or everything that tends towards our value and how we value ourselves as people, void of just being, then we lose a lot of the plot. When I say that, I mean, I think we need to learn how to value ourselves regardless of whatever everything in the outside looks like. I think when you learn to value yourself internally, you learn to sort of act in ways that aren't in reference to circumstance. And what I mean by that is, for example, you being positive with yourself and positive with the life that you live, regardless of whether or not you find everything about your life positive. I feel like sometimes we're waiting on everything to line up before we align ourselves. And that's sort of a backwards way of thinking about it, because I think a lot of things in our life only get aligned once we decide to. Once we actually make the decision and commitment to being a certain way and allowing ourselves to be that way. And I think the most important thing for me right now, or that I'm recognizing within anything, is the importance of intention. The importance of understanding yourself and understanding the things that limit you and the things that bring you to greater heights, and choosing the things that bring you to greater heights intentionally. I think we all have set out, if not recently, on some type of journey of locking in, of sort of taking ourselves seriously and bringing ourselves to the forefront of our own attention, and allowing ourselves to sort of occupy our space. But even so, I feel like if we don't do so with intention, then it's really just action. Just like a goal without action is just thought, like whenever we don't put intention behind certain amounts of our actions, we lose our ability to get ourselves out of them. And I don't mean that to say that you can't find yourself in the things that you do. But when we are doing stuff, we have to recognize that someone is doing them. And I think in that way, we can learn to affirm ourselves rather than the path that we walk, and actually begin to, strengthen ourselves with each step we take. Recognize that it's not just about where the step leads, but you being able to take one in the first place that truly grants us a certain sense of freedom. I think some of the most free I've ever been has always been when I didn't necessarily reference the entire path. And I sort of allowed myself to occupy the moment where I was and appreciate the moment where I was. And in saying that what is will be, is also to say that when we allow ourselves to be where we are and are carrying a certain emotion, a certain vibration, a certain idea, we carry that idea into pretty much everything that we do. We carry that idea into pretty much every situation that we encounter, because we are one with our experience. And our experience is always characteristic of the things that we're able to give ourselves, or the things that we're able to open ourselves up to at the very least. And I think sometimes we have to open ourselves up back to ourselves, because we've been convinced by, the world around us so often, that who we are is something that's always in reference to our accolades, something that's always in reference to achievement, and all these labels that we place upon ourselves without truly giving ourselves a chance to be expressed. And I've been talking recently, like I've had a couple great conversations recently about that form of expression, like having something that only you do for yourself, not for some type of gain, not for some type of validation, but solely for your own. Like painting and not telling a soul that you paint, and just appreciating your ability to paint, whether or not it's good or bad, but just the fact that you even get to express yourself. I think we take for granted the freedom that is our self-expression, the freedom that is just us being. And in learning to invest more appreciation with that being, we learn to appreciate all that our life brings, because all our life brings is always expressed by us in a way. expressed by how we react to a certain situation, or expressed by how we allow ourselves to feel depending on it. And I think it's when we give ourselves affirmation in the moment in regards to the things that we do to express ourselves, we learn to not value ourselves depending on other people's opinions. And when you value yourself based on your own alone, you recognize that it's always been your opinion. It's always been your thoughts. It's always been your own judgments reflected back at you. Because no person can judge you other than yourself. I think we always have to be the one to accept judgments placed upon us in order to truly feel them. And I don't mean that to say that we think that we are a certain way inherently, but to say if we don't come up with a decision for ourselves, we're often deferred, we're often left with what we are told. And I think what we're told is often not necessarily representative of what we actually are, of who we actually are. You know, I think discipline isn't always just a physical thing, but a mental thing. You know, being disciplined enough in your thoughts to allow love to be present, allow intimacy to be gathered with your experience, like living your life from a first person perspective and truly appreciating pretty much everything that's within your vicinity. Because why should you not appreciate what's already here? Why should we deprive ourselves an opportunity of appreciating the things within our vicinity, especially if most of them are worth appreciation? Like me having clothes on my back is worth appreciation. And I don't mean that to sort of put on airs about anything or make it seem smaller than it is, but I think sometimes when it comes to our appreciation and gratitude, we make it about so much when it's really just about you and that thing. I can appreciate, I don't know, this plant for being right next to me. The plant doesn't have to do anything for me to appreciate it at all. I can just appreciate it for being there because I like plants. And I can feel happiness from that. Hold on. There's a plant next to me, by the way, chat. But yeah, I just think we have to let our guard down with ourselves enough to actually stop attacking the world around us. I think a lot of us are stuck on a defensive mode, and we think that it's going to be the best offense for us when it comes to our life, comes to actually achieving anything. But I think true success is always in our ability to let go of our dependence on failure, our dependence on success, to give ourselves affirmation. If we learn to love ourselves regardless of the things that occur in our lives, then what occurs doesn't necessarily matter as much. I won't say it won't matter, it doesn't matter as much. And when I say it doesn't matter as much, I don't mean that it won't impact you. I mean that it won't impact the way that you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself is always what your experience is. We always change how we feel about ourselves, sometimes in reference to a lot of things. And in closing the door to, I guess, our own inconsistency, we open ourselves up to the greater light, which is our own self-discipline in a way, our own space, our own presence, our own awareness. And learning how to use your awareness as something that is a benefit to you rather than a detriment, like using your mind to find the positive things that you enjoy in life and to appreciate those things actively, will sort of rewire and rewrite the way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you go about your entire existence in a way. You know, when we get so trapped in certain mentalities, we truly do get addicted to the way that they feel. We get addicted to those ways of being to the point where we forget that we don't have to be that way. You don't have to be the way that you are. You choose to be the way that you are subtly. And I think sometimes in our indecision, we're making a decision. When we're allowing ourselves to be only victims of our circumstances, we're making a subtle decision. And that doesn't mean that we always have control over every circumstance. But to say at the very least, we can recognize that we're aware enough to recognize how circumstances impact us. And in that way, we can always give ourselves a chance, always give ourselves a thought, always give ourselves some type of inkling of hope or some type of inkling of appreciation for what's there, to actually allow ourselves to occupy the moment in a more happy way. Like, and what that looks like to me is, even if times are turbulent, you have to do a lot, like learning to appreciate yourself through a lot that you do. Loving yourself for the actions that you're putting into your future or whatever development you're trying to achieve right now, and just appreciating yourself on the basis of that. I think we don't appreciate ourselves unless we get something out of it most of the time. And I think that's where we lose a lot of ourselves, because we think who we are is going to be found in the reaction from the world, in our accolades, in our achievements, and how things respond to us rather than how we respond to ourselves. And one thing about the self is it's never found. It's always becoming more aware of what's already here. It's always allowing yourself to occupy more of the moment that you're already a part of, and doing so more awarely, more acutely, and going out there and exploring the world for what it is and finding more of yourself within it. Not because of what you encounter, but because of how you encounter yourself through those things. I think all we're ever doing is encountering ourselves through other people, through other things, through events, circumstances, and most importantly, ourselves. And if we can recognize that who we are is the experience, then it's really about giving ourselves an open door to our own understanding and giving ourselves an open door to our own love and appreciation for what is. I think sometimes it's really about letting go of your dependence on things to be a certain way. I think when we truly allow ourselves to occupy the moment for what it stands for what it is, we learn not only to forgive ourselves for what has been done in the past, but we learn how to open ourselves up to a brighter future or a brighter present moment by appreciating what's currently here and appreciating our ability to even recognize the ways in which we've disaligned ourselves in the past. And what that means, I'm sorry for the words I'm using. What that means is like learning to appreciate our ability to recognize our own wrong. Learning to appreciate our ability to open ourselves up to what's right. I think those are the only ways that we can truly heal from something, because it involves you actually acknowledging the thing that you're trying to heal, and it also involves you applying a remedy, applying some type of understanding to what you have endeavored with, and giving yourself the keys to new doors, the keys to new understanding, the keys to new life, the keys to new love for who you are. And I think that's what I appreciate most about my life recently, is my ability to sort of think. And I don't mean think in a way of becoming so encumbered by thought, but think in a way that it's sort of like allowing myself to be so present within the moment that I don't have to think at all. Like using my mind as a tool to get me to the present rather than a tool to get me out of it. Thinking of whether or not I should be thinking about this thing, and then if I'm not, if it really can't benefit me, if the thing that I'm constantly thinking about can't change depending on my amount of thinking about it. Like letting it go and shifting my focus and awareness onto the things I can appreciate. And in that way, my experience will be painted by that, because my experience is always going to be centered around what I'm centered around. And if we never center ourselves around ourselves, never center ourselves around our own understanding, around our own appreciation, then we lose a lot of our potential. We lose a lot of our ability to even be within the moment and be within our own idea of our success, be within our own ideas more so. Like when I was talking about freedom recently and how we are living in somebody's concept, somebody's idea in terms of like a society. And I think none of us ever really take the time to live within our own idea. I think we all are doing so in a very passive way, but I think doing it in an overt way, not overt as in harmful, overt as in actually understanding that you're the one who has to experience your own thoughts and frameworks. You're the one who has to experience you as the experience. So why not give yourself an opportunity at more love and appreciation for who you are by allowing yourself to occupy the moment that you take up, by allowing yourself to be the good within the moments that you occupy.